Welcome to Life Stories, where we bring you heartfelt tales of love, resilience, and personal growth. Today, we have a story that proves how life has a way of surprising us when we least expect it. Follow Ryan, a self-made millionaire, and Emily, a woman he once overlooked, as they reconnect at a college reunion. What begins as a challenge turns into a journey of self-discovery, vulnerability, and second chances. Get ready for a story about transformation, forgiveness, and the power of love. Don't forget to subscribe to Life Stories to start today's journey with us. Ryan West had never been one to shy away from challenges. In fact, his rise to success had been built on taking risks, a quality that had led him to become a self-made millionaire in the tech industry. Yet, as he sat in a cozy cafe in Chicago, surrounded by old friends, something about the conversation felt different. There was an odd sense of nostalgia in the air as his former classmates, most of whom had found modest success in their respective fields, laughed and reminisced about the good old days at university. The cafe, warm and inviting, was filled with the familiar hum of chatter and clinking cups. The soft aroma of freshly brewed coffee lingered in the air as Ryan leaned back in his chair, sipping on his black coffee. The mood was light, but there was an unspoken acknowledgement that he had come a long way from the college kid he used to be. Now, as the owner of a thriving tech empire, Ryan had become the one his friends admired, perhaps even envied. Yet, despite his wealth and success, there was a part of him that couldn't help but feel a little distant from these old connections. So, Ryan, Mark, one of his old college friends, began, swirling a glass of whiskey in his hand. "Are you planning to make an entrance at the reunion next weekend?" Ryan smirked. "Haven't really thought about it," he replied, though the question lingered in his mind. Jake, another friend, grinned mischievously. "Come on, man. You were the king of our class. Everyone's expecting you to show up with some supermodel on your arm." Laughter erupted around the table, but Ryan only shook his head. "That was college, guys. I'm not that guy anymore." Lisa, an old classmate, teased him. Yeah, but it would still be fun to see how everyone's turned out." The conversation shifted, moving between shared memories and updates on life's journey. But then, unexpectedly, the topic turned to someone Ryan hadn't thought about in years, Emily Harris. "Hey, remember Emily Harris?" Mark said with a small snort, nudging Jake. Jake burst out laughing. "Oh man, how could I forget? She was, like, the ugliest girl in our class. Always so awkward, hiding behind those huge glasses and baggy clothes." Ryan frowned slightly, stirring his coffee as the mention of her name stirred memories of college days. Emily had been the quiet one, often sitting alone in the corner of the library, keeping to herself. He wasn't unkind to her, but he hadn't exactly been friendly either. They had lived in different worlds, and her shy demeanor had made her seem invisible to him at the time. "Well, guess what I heard?" Mark continued, with a smug grin. "She's coming to the reunion." Jake nearly choked on his drink. "No way. What's the bet?" "She probably hasn't changed a bit. Same frizzy hair, same old-fashioned clothes." A wicked grin spread across his face as he turned to Ryan. "Hey, Ryan, why don't you take Emily as your date to the reunion?" Ryan looked up, brow furrowing. "What? You heard me," Jake insisted. "Imagine it, big shot Ryan West showing up with Emily Harris. It'll be hilarious. We can see if she's still the same awkward mess or if she's finally grown up." Mark laughed. "Come on, Ryan, you're always up for a challenge." Ryan leaned back in his chair, feeling his ego pricked by the taunt. "And what do I get out of this?" he asked, his voice tinged with curiosity. Jake grinned. "Bragging rights, of course. And hey, maybe you'll be doing her a favor." Lisa shook her head in disapproval. "You guys are unbelievable." Ryan glanced around the table, feeling the weight of their expectant gazes. Despite himself, a small part of him felt a flicker of intrigue. He hadn't seen Emily since graduation, and something about the way they were all so sure that she'd stayed the same piqued his curiosity. He shrugged with a smirk. "All right, fine, I'll ask her. Jake clapped his hands together. This is going to be good. Lisa sighed, giving him a pointed look. Just be nice to her. Okay? Ryan nodded, though he wasn't entirely sure what he was getting himself into. Later that evening, he sat in his sleek penthouse apartment. Staring at his phone, he found Emily's number through their alumni group and, after a moment of hesitation, sent her a message. Hey Emily, it's Ryan West. Long time no see. I was wondering if you'd be interested in going to the reunion with me? He half expected her to ignore him, or maybe respond with sarcasm. To his surprise, his phone buzzed almost immediately. Hi Ryan. Wow, I didn't expect to hear from you. Sure, I'd love to go with you. Ryan raised an eyebrow at her quick response, feeling both surprised and curious. Something about her tone seemed genuine, and he found himself genuinely intrigued. Great, he typed back. Let's meet up this week and catch up. Her reply came swiftly. Sounds good. Looking forward to it. Ryan set his phone down, a small smirk playing on his lips. Well, he thought to himself, this might be more interesting than I thought. Ryan arrived early at the Velvet Lounge, a sophisticated bar nestled in the heart of downtown Chicago. The atmosphere buzzed with quiet conversations, the soft clink of glasses, and the mellow hum of a jazz band playing in the background. Ryan settled into a plush leather booth near the window, swirling his whiskey as he stared out at the city lights. He thought back to his college days, wondering if Emily had changed as much as he had. He couldn't shake the memory of her, thick glasses slipping down her nose, unruly hair always tied back in a frizzy ponytail, oversized sweaters swallowing her small frame. She had been the quiet one, the one always sitting alone, buried in a book. The other students had made fun of her, and though Ryan hadn't been one of the cruel ones, he had kept his distance. To him, she had always seemed so out of place, like someone who didn't belong. But now, as he sat waiting for her arrival, there was a flicker of uncertainty in his chest. What if she had changed? Not just on the outside, but in ways that would make him uncomfortable? As he took another sip of his drink, the door to the bar swung open, and in walked Emily. Ryan froze mid-sip, his eyes widened in shock. The woman who stepped inside was nothing like the shy, awkward girl he remembered. Gone were the thick glasses, now. Her eyes gleamed with a confident, almost magnetic gaze. Her long chestnut brown hair cascaded in soft waves down her shoulders, framing a face that was striking, elegant, and undeniably beautiful. She was wearing a sleek, form-fitting pink dress that accentuated her curves, paired with heels that gave her an air of effortless sophistication. Emily moved with poise, her chin lifted, exuding a quiet self-assurance that Ryan found both stunning and unsettling. Ryan blinked, momentarily at a loss for words. He wasn't prepared for this. He had braced himself for the same old Emily, the one who never quite fit in, the one who had been the subject of all the jokes. But this Emily was entirely different. His mind raced as he stood up to greet her, unsure of what to say. Hi, Ryan, Emily said smoothly, sliding into the seat across from him with an ease he couldn't help but admire. Ryan stumbled for words, his usual charm failing him for the first time. Emily, wow, you look different, he finally managed to say, though it wasn't much of a compliment. She tilted her head, amusement dancing in her eyes. Different? She asked playfully, a small smile tugging at her lips. You could say that. Ryan chuckled nervously, still trying to process the change in her. Yeah, I mean, wow, you really have changed. Emily took a sip of her wine, her expression calm and collected. Well, it's been 10 years, Ryan. People change. Ryan leaned back, his thoughts swirling. I guess so, he said, though the more he looked at her, the more he realized that this wasn't just a superficial transformation. Emily had grown into someone confident, someone who clearly had a purpose. The shy, insecure girl from college was long gone. So, what's this all about? Emily asked, her eyes scanning him as she leaned back in her seat, clearly unfazed by the awkward tension that Ryan was still trying to shake off. The reunion. I mean, why the sudden invitation? Ryan hesitated, rubbing the back of his neck. He wasn't sure how to explain it without sounding shallow or insincere. I just thought it would be fun to catch up. You know, see how everyone's doing these days. Emily raised an eyebrow. Really? And here I thought it was just another dare from your friends. You always did enjoy a good bet. Ryan stiffened. What do you mean? Emily tapped her glass with her manicured nails. A playful glint in her eyes. Come on, Ryan. I wasn't exactly invisible back in college. I know how the old crowd used to treat me. Let me guess, they dared you to bring the ugliest girl to the reunion. Didn't they? Ryan opened his mouth to protest. But Emily held up a hand, cutting him off. A small, amused smile spread across her face. Relax, Ryan. I'm not upset. In fact, I find it kind of amusing. Ryan leaned in slightly, his curiosity getting the best of him. You do? He asked. Genuinely intrigued. Of course, she said, swirling her wine. They still think I'm the same girl. And you were brave enough to actually ask me. Ryan studied her, his mind racing. He had expected to feel embarrassed, to have her resent him for the whole dare. But instead, there was something about her that made him feel respect, maybe even admiration. So, why did you say yes? Ryan asked. Emily set her glass down and looked him straight in the eye. Because I wanted to see if you'd treat me like a friend. Or like a joke. Her words hit him harder than he expected. For the first time in a long while, Ryan felt an unfamiliar sense of vulnerability. This wasn't just a game for her. This was personal. Slowly, Ryan nodded, realizing just how much he had underestimated Emily all these years. He leaned in, his voice quieter now. I'll treat you like a friend. Emily, I promise. She smiled, a small, satisfied curve of her lips. Good, she said. Now tell me, what exactly should I expect at this reunion? More of the same tired gossip? Ryan chuckled, relaxing for the first time that evening. Pretty much. But hey, at least you'll have me there to make it bearable. Emily smirked. We'll see about that. As their conversation continued, Ryan found himself genuinely enjoying their time together. Emily was sharp, confident, and refreshingly honest, qualities he hadn't expected to find in her. And for the first time in a long while, he realized that maybe this reunion wasn't just about reconnecting with old friends, but about rediscovering someone he had long forgotten. The night of the reunion arrived, and the grand ballroom of the luxurious hotel in New York City was alive with the sound of laughter, music, and clinking champagne glasses. Former classmates mingled, swapping stories of their successes, reminiscing about old times, and, of course, sneaking glances at the one couple everyone had been talking about. Ryan and Emily Harris. Ryan couldn't help but glance over at her from across the room. She looked breathtaking in a deep red gown, the confidence she carried with every step only enhancing her beauty. There was a calm serenity to her presence, something that made her stand out among the crowd. Not just because of her stunning appearance but because of the self-assured way she held herself. She wasn't the quiet, awkward girl from college anymore. No, Emily Harris was a force to be reckoned with. And Ryan couldn't help but admire how far she had come. But despite her poise, Ryan could see the guarded look in her eyes. He knew the truth. He knew the apology he had given her, albeit late, wasn't enough to erase the hurt she felt. The lingering tension between them was undeniable, and the weight of it hung heavy in the air. He had spent days thinking about how to make things right, how to show Emily that his feelings for her were real, that everything had shifted, and that it wasn't just about proving something to his friends anymore. Suddenly, the music stopped, and the DJ's voice rang through the room. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention? We'd like to take a moment to recognize some of our most notable alumni. The crowd grew quieter, and Ryan's heart began to race. He wasn't sure why he was suddenly nervous. But there was no turning back now. He had to say what he had been holding in for so long. The crowd hushed, and he knew that this moment was his chance to make everything right. Ryan stepped forward, handing his drink to a passing waiter as he moved toward the stage. He took the microphone and paused, scanning the room. His gaze finally landed on Emily, standing by the entrance. She was watching him, her expression unreadable. "Good evening, everyone," Ryan began, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "I know tonight is about reconnecting, reminiscing, and celebrating how far we've all come. But before we do that, I need to say something. Something I should have said a long time ago." A murmur swept through the crowd, and Ryan's stomach tightened. This wasn't easy. His eyes stayed fixed on Emily as he continued. "When I agreed to come to this reunion, it wasn't for the right reasons," Ryan confessed. "I thought it would be fun. A chance to relive old times. Maybe impress a few of you." He let out a small chuckle. But there was no humor in it. "But somewhere along the way, something changed. I made a mistake. A big one. I asked Emily Harris to be my date as part of a stupid dare. And at first, yeah, I thought it was harmless. But what I didn't expect, what I never saw coming, was how wrong I was about her." The room fell completely silent, and all eyes were on Emily. Ryan's voice softened as he looked at her, his heart pounding in his chest. "Emily isn't just some girl from our past that people used to make fun of. She's smart, kind, driven, and has accomplished more than most of us could dream of. And somewhere along the way, I realized that she wasn't the one who needed to prove anything, it was me." The crowd remained still, listening intently as Ryan took a deep breath. "I'm sorry, Emily, I hurt you, and you didn't deserve that. But I need you to know that everything that happened between us, everything I feel for you now, is real." Ryan stepped down from the stage, his eyes never leaving hers. There was a heaviness in his chest. But he knew he had to finish this. He moved towards Emily, the crowd parting like the Red Sea. He stopped in front of her, standing vulnerable and open. "If it's not too late, Emily," Ryan said softly, his voice thick with emotion, "I'd really like the chance to prove it." A long silence passed, and Emily stood frozen, her hand trembling slightly. Ryan's heart raced, but as he waited, he knew he had done everything he could. This was the moment. Finally, Emily's lips parted, her voice barely above a whisper. "That took a lot of courage," she said softly. Ryan nodded, his heart in his throat. "It did, but you're worth it." Emily's gaze softened, and for the first time since the night outside the bar, Ryan saw a flicker of hope in her eyes. She took a deep breath and smiled, a smile that was small but genuine. A sign that maybe, just maybe, they could move forward. "I believe you," she said. A wave of relief washed over Ryan, and before he could say another word, Emily extended her hand. "Dance with me?" Ryan smiled, taking her hand gently, feeling a sense of peace settle in his chest. They walked to the center of the dance floor, surrounded by their classmates who watched in awe. The whispers faded away, and for the first time, it was just the two of them. Under the soft glow of the chandelier, Ryan and Emily swayed together, not as the people they used to be, but as something new, something real. As they danced, Ryan whispered into her ear, "Thank you for giving me another chance." Emily rested her head against his chest, her voice low, "Don't waste it." And in that moment, as the music swelled around them, Ryan knew that this reunion had become something much more than just a gathering of old friends. It was the start of a new chapter, one where love, respect, and the courage to change would guide them both. As the night wore on, the music played softly in the background, and Ryan and Emily found themselves walking out of the ballroom hand in hand. The weight of the past was slowly lifting, replaced by something fresh and promising. The crowd's whispers had faded, and now it was just the two of them, walking together, side by side, into the unknown, but with hearts open and minds clearer than ever before. Ryan looked at Emily, his heart swelling with gratitude. "You know," he said quietly, "I'm really glad you agreed to come to the reunion with me." Emily smiled, her eyes meeting his. "Is that because you're enjoying my company? Or because you finally got the chance to prove them all wrong?" Ryan chuckled softly, a playful glint in his eyes. "A little bit of both. Maybe, but mostly because I think this was exactly what I needed. They continued to walk through the night, the cool air wrapping around them as they shared their quiet thoughts. For the first time in a long while, Ryan felt a sense of peace. A sense of belonging he hadn't even known he was missing. Maybe you're not the same guy the first remember from college, Emily teased, squeezing his hand. Ryan grinned. Maybe you're not the same girl I thought you were either. Together, they stepped into a future that neither of them had expected, a future full of second chances, love, and the beauty of rediscovering what truly matters. If you enjoyed this heartwarming story of love, resilience, and second chances, make sure to subscribe to Life Stories for more inspiring tales. Stay tuned for our next video. And remember, sometimes love finds us in the most unexpected ways.